sports. He's also an ambassador for mental health, and he has gone on the record really openly about his struggles, his personal struggles. We're so pleased to have Michael join us now. And the article, which just hit tsn.ca, 40 minutes ago, people need to check it out, focuses on your trip to Saskatoon and these two families that make up a huge part of your life. So tell us a little bit about it.
I'm glad you finished that thought, because I'm thinking your article's about your trip to Saskatoon, which, probably needs a little more enhancement than just that. Saskatoon, by the way, is great. But the story is, it's crazy for me in my life that these two worlds came together. What I said in the article was kind of like the cemetery and the playground side by side, because the school that I went to, in fact, still walk my dog at, has a cemetery here, and a playground here. And for me, that was very relatable to Wade Belak, who lived in Battleford, Saskatchewan, and his parents, Lorraine and Barry, live there right now and have lived there all their lives. And across the river, the North Saskatchewan River, is North Battleford, Saskatchewan, and that's where a guy named Tyson Williams lives. And Tyson Williams' story for me is the most significant story for me since I started reaching out to talk about mental health.
Tell us a little bit about Tyson, who you saw, who reached out to you
Yes.
in Saskatoon and said, when are we meeting up? But tell us how you first became familiar with Tyson.
So on October of 2009, let me try to tell this as fast as I can. Tell me if I make sense when I say it. In October of 2009, we interviewed Stefan Richer on Off the Record. Had never spoke to him before. I said to him, is it okay if I talk to you about your depression? I know you suffered in the 90s. He was a pretty famous hockey player. And I said, when I throw it out there, I'll talk about my own. I'd never spoken about it before, but I thought, okay, this might make for interesting TV. We talked for maybe 90 seconds. After it was broadcast, I started getting a response, almost all from people who said, you're the first two people in my life that I've ever heard speaking about their mental illness, their depression, without sounding embarrassed, without sounding ashamed, and without sounding weak. And because you did that, I'm reaching out to you and telling you, a perfect stranger, about my illness. So, this was like life-altering for me. It's like, wow, really? I never talked about it on TV because I thought, who would care? It'd be like, oh, poor Michael whining about his illness. But then I find out I have this unbelievable power, as does everybody who feels this illness. If you share, you will change a life, because it's so seldom talked about. So he told me, Tyson Williams, he was one of these emails, that he had a belt on a hook and was going to kill himself.
And he said, I think it's too late for me.
And I said, why is it too late for you? And we went back and forth on email about 6 times. And then 2 years later, he messaged me and said, what you don't know from that conversation was that I had a belt on a hook and I had it around my neck. And then I heard someone respond to the computer, and I went back because he had written letters on the computer of goodbye. And he said, every time you responded to me, or I responded to you, I went back to finish the job. And then the last time, I yelled at the computer, man, that guy doesn't shut up even in email. But I thought, well, it kind of does make some sense, because essentially I said, what do you got to lose? To go get help. So that was his experience with seeing a glimmer of light that came from somebody else sharing. And I had never met him before. So here I am in Saskatoon at Mike Babcock's fundraiser for mental health. An amazing event. Literally one of the most emotional, special events of my life. So Tyson Williams and his wife were there. So I told his story and I introduced him.
And an ovation. People they stood up when you did that.
That's Tyson. It was called Prairie Chic. That's how you were supposed to dress. So we all interpreted differently. By the way, I bought that shirt the day of because I was clearly going to be underdressed. Way too big. I'm looking at that going, Michael, and the top button, or one more button you had to do up. But I said, Tyson Williams is in the audience. Tyson, I told his story. I said, Tyson, just give people a wave. He stood up, and there's dead silence. Dead silence. And he is so uncomfortable, and he kind of gives like a little wave like this, and everybody in the crowd stands up, and they start to cheer, and this goes on for however long. I have no idea. It was one of the most profound moments of my life, just seeing him. It was great.
And he's married with a child, doing well.
He sent me a picture of him and his new baby. He has another child from before. One of the things when he talked about his depression and his desire to end his life was, I don't think, it was the people will be better off without me. But he had a second child since then, and he sent me a picture, and I actually put it on last year's World Suicide Prevention Day. I said, look at this. His baby boy is wearing a Boston Bruins sleeper, and he's wearing a Bruins jersey, and he said, oh, it's great, thanks for doing that, but that's my daughter, not my son.
What about...
You can't tell at that age.
You can't even tell. What about the Belaks? How special was it to see them? You've written about Wade Belak after, you know, he took his life, and you've said, I felt like I had blood on my hands, like I could have done more. But you got to see his parents in Saskatoon, too, and they lived just across the river from Tyson.
I figured by the crow flies, maybe 5 kilometers. I mean, so it was crazy that these worlds, for me, that were so important only for me in my head, were virtually neighbors. I mean, one could have picked up the other to drive to Saskatoon, but having lunch with the Belaks was unbelievable for me. It was everything. It was every emotion. It was like there were the tears at one point as I wrote. I didn't know what they were. Were they tears of happiness, sadness? The truth is, it's kind of like when you take a shower. The water comes out cold and hot, and when it combines together, it's something totally different. This was really tough and really wonderful. They are two of the most wonderful people that I know, which is not surprising that they would have produced one of the wonderful people I knew in Wade. So you know what? Time doesn't heal all wounds, but it heals you a little bit enough that you can sit and smile and laugh and joke about the good times with their son.
Listen, we're going to have you back because I didn't even get
to I'm not coming back.
I didn't even get you have to.
No, I'm not coming back. Summer holidays here. This is what I do. I write.
We're going to get you back here. Sick Not Week, you've got that coming up, that initiative, so we got to talk more about that. It's so good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
We're going to have Michael's article on tsn.ca and more on Michael's Sick Not Week initiative. You want to read all about that, we'll have info on our website.